Christiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the four chairmen, thank you for your leadership in having this hearing today, and panelists, thank you for taking time out of your schedules to be here. I'll start with a pretty broad question about the programs, but a specific in nature to the number of scholarships that are awarded between the two programs annually. Do you have that, whether it's an average or last? Let's not use the last year.
The average for EITC is at least 40,000 annually, and for OSTC, is, I don't even have this stat. What's the OSTC average?
I would say it's probably about, I apologize, it's over 40,000 with EITC and over, I'd say, about 18,000 for OSTC.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's important to point out that we have 255,000 students in Pennsylvania's public schools, and when you look at that percentage of roughly, I think that's about 20% of those students receiving scholarships. I think those numbers validate that these are going to the most needy families and those that can't afford it. And those that can't afford the tuition to go to these private schools will clearly, they're probably in that 80 percentile. And one of the criticisms we heard pre-OSTC, one of the criticisms we often heard was that there was no guarantee in the EITC program. There's no legal requirement that those funds go to low-income families residing in the chronically underperforming traditional public schools. And it's one of those things that it's a criticism that's really hard to prove that it's not happening, similar to prove that you're not cherry picking the best and the brightest. Those are oftentimes criticisms that are very difficult to prove. So what did we do? We created a legal requirement. We created a specific program to address that criticism. We created the OSTC program, a program that only applies to low-income families that reside in the bottom 15% of our traditional public schools. And I think that was responsible when it happened, and I think it's responsible that we maintain it, and I think when appropriate, we increase it proportionally to those students that are within our public schools, or excuse me, proportional to those in our private schools compared to our public schools. If we look at the funding, while 20% of our kids are in private schools today, they don't receive nearly 20% in the funding. In fact, they get roughly half of 1% of all funding in Pennsylvania education dollars. So to the gentlelady's point about a value, we're saving tens of thousands of lives every single year, and we're doing it for a fraction of 1%. I think that's responsible budgeting. And one final point, this word about high quality education, a high quality product, and in this situation we're talking about a product that is education, and a high quality product should be defined by the consumers of those products. And so if we want a high quality education for our consumers, which would be parents and students, I think we're on the path to doing an even better job. And the reason being, just sitting here, I went through all the different options, the marketplace of choices for our parents. We have Junior Achievement, a youth development organization. We have arts and education foundations within our public schools. We have the OSTC program for low-income families that reside in our underperforming traditional public school systems. We have religious-based schools. We have scholarships for private schools that are non-religious based. We have approved private schools for those that are the most severely challenged. We have cyber public schools, public charter schools, 500 traditional public schools. Like me, I'm a product of a traditional public school, and I'm very proud of that. But as unique as this Commonwealth is, and we talk about it all the time, how unique our 67 counties are, and our own districts are unique compared to one another. the education needs of those districts are unique as well, all the way down to individual families. And we should be encouraging choices. We should be encouraging competition. We shouldn't be finding taking folks in elected positions, in appointed positions, taking covert means to destroy the public choice that we all worked so hard to establish and to maintain. And I'm not saying anybody up here is taking covert means. I think we're having an honest, transparent dialogue about whether or not a program should be funded and at what level. I wish that Representative Santora didn't have to be a leader on this issue this year and propose these two bills. I actually don't think there's a need for his legislation. However, if there is even the smallest inkling of a legislative solution to ensure this never happens again, it is responsible for us to take that measure. And to you, Representative Santora, thank you for your leadership in offering a solution. If we need belts, suspenders, and another pair of belts and suspenders to make sure this never happens again, then so be it. However, I will offer that I believe somebody testified that about making sure that this legislation would prevent us from being in this situation again. My only concern to that is the legislation is only as good as those that are following the legislation. And I believe that we didn't need to have the result that transpired last year, but I do think it is being responsible elected officials by exhausting every legislative solution on the table, and I look forward to having the debate and the discussion on those bills going forward. And once again, to the four chairmen, thank you for your generosity and your hospitality today.